A lonely woman crosses paths with an abandoned parrot, silenced by pain. How did her love and determination bring its song back to life? Don't miss this heartwarming journey of healing and connection. The air was crisp that late autumn afternoon, carrying the unmistakable weight of the season's melancholy. Wind wove through the nearly deserted park, scattering dry leaves across the ground, their brittle rustle mingling with the faint laughter of children in the distance. The scene was both haunting and familiar, a reminder of time slipping past. Eleanor walked with the steady rhythm of someone who had no particular place to be, her silver hair tucked beneath a modest scarf. In one hand, she clutched a small umbrella, though the threat of rain did nothing to hasten her unhurried steps. This was her routine, her solace. But that day, as the grey clouds loomed lower, something unusual caught her attention. Near a weathered wooden bench sat an abandoned cage. From afar it appeared unremarkable, rusted by time and neglect. Yet, as her eyes lingered, a whisper of sadness seemed to emanate from it, pulling her closer. Intrigued, she approached, her movements careful and measured, as though disturbing the air might shatter whatever fragile story this forgotten object held. Inside the cage, a parrot sat motionless, its feathers dull and ruffled. Once they might have gleamed in vibrant hues, but now they bore the pallor of despair. Its dark eyes, deep and unreadable, held a weight Elena couldn't explain, but immediately understood. A silent plea seemed to pass between them, a connection forged not in words, but in shared loneliness. She glanced around the park, searching for someone, anyone, who might claim ownership of the bird. The space was empty, save for the faint whisper of leaves and the first drop of rain that fell cool against her brow. Quietly, she unfolded her umbrella and leaned it over the cage, shielding the creature from the encroaching drizzle. Who could do this to you? love, but because he understood the bird needed her more than him. In the days that followed, they agreed on a routine of regular visits. Edward would continue seeing Tito, bringing him music and toys to stimulate him, but Eleanor would remain his primary caretaker. Tito seemed to flourish under this new arrangement. Over time, he began mimicking snippets of Edward's songs and repeating phrases Elena said daily. The connection between the three of them was undeniable, and Tito's once-lost voice started to resurface with surprising strength. As Tito's vocabulary grew, Eleanor began to notice something troubling. He reacted intensely to certain sounds like thunder or loud voices. One afternoon, as overcome abandonment and rediscovered his voice. When it was Tito's time to shine, Eleanor felt her heart pounding. Edward began singing the familiar tune Tito had learned, while Eleanor accompanied him on the piano. To everyone's amazement, Tito not only whistled along but also repeated entire phrases. "Everything's going to be okay," echoed through the room, drawing applause and even tears from the audience. After the event, Eleanor and Edward were flooded with messages from people deeply moved by Tito's story. Many sought advice on helping traumatized animals, while others offered donations to support animal protection initiatives. Inspired, Elena decided to turn her home into a rehabilitation center for rescued birds. Edward volunteered to help, and together they began expanding the backyard, adding more enclosures and flight spaces. Tito, now a symbol of the project, became the beacon of hope for everyone involved. Over the months, he transformed into a completely different parrot. Not only did he sing, but he also interacted with other rescued birds, almost as if he recognized their pain and wanted to help them heal. His cage, once a place of isolation, was left open during the day, allowing him to fly freely around the yard. As for Eleanor, she felt more alive than ever. Tito had filled a void she hadn't even realized was there, giving her life a renewed sense of purpose. Edward, too, found fresh motivation in helping Elena grow the project into something greater than they had ever imagined. One quiet evening, as Elena watched Tito sleeping peacefully, a wave of gratitude washed over her. She picked up Edward's notebook and added a line next to one of his notes. "Never give up on music, even when it stops playing. Never give up on life, even when it feels silent." Tito wasn't just a parrot. He was living proof that love and patience could turn even the deepest wounds into a lasting melody. Elena's home had transformed into a lively sanctuary. Tito, fully healed, remained the star attraction, but he was no longer alone. Several other birds had found refuge there, each carrying its own story of hardship and resilience. With Edward's constant support and help from local volunteers, Eleanor dedicated her days to caring for the animals, creating a space where life could begin anew. The project grew so much that a local TV program decided to feature Tito and Elena's sanctuary. A filming crew arrived at her home to document their daily routine, capturing shots of Tito flying freely around the garden and interacting with the other birds. During the interview, the host asked Elena about the most memorable moment of her journey. Smiling, she glanced at Tito perched on her shoulder and replied, "It was the first time he said, 'Everything's going to be okay.' That's when I realized that hope never leaves us, even when everything seems lost." As if understanding the sentiment, Tito let out a perfect whistle, followed by a clear, "Everything's going to be okay." The studio erupted in applause and heartfelt laughter. After the broadcast of the program, Eleanor began receiving support from various animal welfare organizations. Donations poured in from across the country, enabling the sanctuary to expand. A new area was built with larger, safer spaces for the rescued birds. Edward, who had officially become a partner in the project, proposed something unique: an annual event called the Tito Gives Life Festival, celebrating the animals' recovery and raising funds for other animal protection initiatives. The festival featured live music performances, talks on animal care, and, of course, a special moment for Tito to shine on stage. At the first event, hundreds of people attended. Tito, ever the charmer, repeated inspiring words and phrases that reflected his journey, like "never give up" and "everything will be okay." For many, Tito wasn't just another bird. He had become a true symbol of resilience. Over the years, Tito continued to inspire everyone around him. He lived surrounded by love, never forgetting the people who helped him regain his voice. Elena and Edward collaborated on a book titled Tito's Last Song, where they shared the details of their journey and provided advice for caring for traumatized animals. The book became a huge success, with part of the profits going to support the sanctuary. Tito, of course, became something of a minor celebrity, his image gracing book covers and promotional materials. Despite the years passing, Elena's enthusiasm never waned. She often said, "Tito gave me my life back just as much as I gave him his. He taught me to hear the silence and turn it into music." The end came quietly, as Elena always knew it would. Tito, her steadfast companion, had grown frail over the years. His once bright feathers had dimmed, his movements slowed, but his spirit had remained unyielding until the very last. One crisp morning, as the first rays of sun filtered through the trees, Tito took his final breath in the gentle confines of his open cage, surrounded by the warmth of the sanctuary he had inspired. The loss left an unspoken silence in the home. The familiar melody of Tito's voice, which had once filled every corner, was gone. Elena sat by the empty cage that day, her hand resting lightly on its edge, as if waiting for him to perch there one last time. But there was no bitterness, no regret, only a deep well of gratitude. Tito had lived well, his life a testament to resilience and love. A week later, Eleanor and Edward gathered a small circle of friends and neighbors for a quiet ceremony in the garden. It was a place Tito had adored, where he would spend hours watching the wind ripple through the grass or listening to the chatter of other rescued birds. Edward stood with a sapling in his hands, its delicate branches reaching toward the sky. Together, he and Elena planted it near the sanctuary's edge, where it could grow strong and shelter the creatures Tito had inspired them to protect. They placed a simple plaque beneath the tree. It read, "Here rests Tito, whose song taught us that love can heal even the deepest wounds." The words were plain, but they carried the weight of everything Tito had come to mean, not only to Elena and Edward, but to everyone whose lives he had touched. The sanctuary, Refugio Tito, continued to thrive. What had once been a modest effort to save one life had grown into a haven for countless others. Birds of every color and song filled the air with life, their presence a living legacy to Tito's indomitable spirit. Eleanor and Edward worked tirelessly, ensuring every creature that arrived was cared for and loved. They welcomed volunteers from across the region, people inspired by the story of the little bird who had found his voice and reminded others to find theirs. One evening, as the sanctuary quieted and the soft light of dusk settled over the garden, Elena returned to her piano. Her hands, steady with purpose, moved across the keys, weaving a melody she had played countless times before. The notes filled the air, gentle and sure, a tribute to the companion who had taught her to listen not just with her ears, but with her heart. As she played, she felt Tito's presence, not as an absence, but as something eternal, woven into the music itself. In the quiet that followed, she whispered, "You're still here, Tito." And in a way, he was. His song lived on, not just in the sanctuary's birds, but in every act of kindness, in every small, quiet moment of hope and healing. Tito's voice, though silenced, would forever echo in the hearts of those who had been lucky enough to hear it. Thank you for joining me on this heartfelt